Excellent. Well, guys, welcome. We're welcome back here. Today, we've got a special treat. We've got Mike Dixon from Engel Coolers. How are you, Mike?
Hey, I'm doing great. Doing great. Happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I know, I know we haven't really met in person, but I know the whole last year, 2020, has been just kind of a whirlwind for everyone. What have you been up to in the last year or so, and how have you been killing some time there?
Well, we've not been traveling. And so that's kind of the inside joke that if you would have told a bunch of us in the industry that we wouldn't have any work travel on our schedule for mostly part of a year, but yet you still couldn't go do anything kind of interesting and fun with that time, it would be a brutal punishment. But we've been hard at work. As a lot of companies in the fishing industry have experienced. The quarter that kind of led into the pandemic, first quarter last year, was kind of an interesting one because it was actually showing some signs of confusion, if you will, mixed signals. Nobody was quite sure what 2020 was really going to feel like and look like. And in fact, by the time we were really into about February, which is, I distinctly remember one of the last trips I took last year before the pandemic really shut everything down was the American Sport Fishing Association held their annual spring meeting in Tallahassee. And so we all met up and did some hill visits in Tallahassee with some folks and got together, and it's from coast to coast, all corners, all segments of our industry. And a lot of folks were really starting to kind of think that maybe 2020 was going to be one of those kind of exhale years where you just had to put one foot in front of the other and kind of get through it. And by the time our office shut down and sent everybody to work remotely for April and May, by the time we came back to the office full time in June, everything was going crazy. Let's put it that way. I think a lot of the inability to vacation as you normally would, maybe in the more grander sense. I think the suspension of youth sports, all those types of things left people with, kind of having to reinvent ways to go do things and have fun and have family time. And it really benefited fishing, camping, kind of those self-propagated kind of family outdoor activities that you can somewhat control those variables that the pandemic had in doubt. So what we saw was outdoor equipment in general, but especially if you owned a boat and if you were in a place where you still had access, that was a problem here in Florida. Public access ramps, et cetera, shut down. So that created kind of a scramble and a bit of a cautionary tale on how to manage that. But it really got into a crazy busy year and ended up being, for Engel, one of the best years ever. And the struggles really by the fall turned into, pandemic still was a very weighty kind of variable, but really it turned into, that's where all the reverberations really started to come into play. And I think whether you do manufacturing overseas or you don't, you probably still source some sort of component part or raw material or something. And so that's really even still what we're living in today is, if you weren't impacted in the fishing industry on this side of the Pacific, somewhere upstream in your supply chain, somebody probably was, or a port was, or shipping schedules got messed up. And so that's kind of where the whole industry is at now, which is, you want to take great advantage of this kind of not renewed interest, but revitalized interest and make sure these people that kind of otherwise spent their summer at travel baseball tournaments, but otherwise last year spent a lot of time on their boat fishing, you want to make sure you kind of retain them in that and make sure that they don't just kind of jump back out as quick as they jumped in. So, 2020 was just a scramble, and you also had to keep your eye on the prize. You had to kind of continue to product development, all those types of things. You kind of had to keep your head down and keep going, because ultimately we were going to get to the other side of this. And then you got to figure out that, combined with an election, what it's all going to look like. So.
Yeah, that's all for sure, man, for sure. And obviously with 2020 being the unique year as it was, you brought up a really good point where it brought, an influx of other, I guess, new customers to not only fishing, but also hunting as well. And just in California alone, I believe the number is we saw an influx of about 4 million new anglers just in this state alone. I'm sure Florida is probably more or less the same, wouldn't you think?
Absolutely. Because again, it's a mix of, obviously we have a lot of population movement going on right now. People last year learned that, if your company can let you work remote, well, then live where you want to live, kind of a thing. And so we're seeing people experience new locales, new options. And, the boating and fishing industry, as long as I've been in it, which is since the late 90s, has always had some sort of very determined campaign to, it's been called Grow Boating, it's been called, Keep America Fishing. There's plenty of them. And the goal is always, step one, get people to try it, get people to experience it, get back to, every year we talk about, constantly the mantra of get people talking about who was the first person to take you fishing? What was that memory like? And we have all kinds of data that we get and everything else, but step two is retaining those people. And, then you're in the world of all those myriad of challenges that can maybe send people back out of the sport, out of the hobby, which is, it can be costs, it can be access in their local community. It can be all kinds of things. It's demands on their time, and suddenly you get a family with 3 kids with various youth sports. Suddenly, you run out of opportunities. So really it's been a mantra for decades now. And there's some really smart people and some really passionate people that are continually trying to bring new ideas to the table about, how do we make sure that as many people as possible, and maybe it's not for them, but how do we make sure we're at least making fishing accessible to them, to at least have that initial experience and decide, man, I really enjoyed that. That was really amazing. That was a lot of fun. I'd like to do more of that. Or, maybe some of them just say that was really neat. It was fun. It was great family time, but I have other things I'd rather do. So we're hoping that we see some great kind of sticking power, because tackle sales have been great. Equipment sales have been great. Boat sales have been phenomenal. And what you hope to not see is, a season or 2 from now, the used boat market being super vibrant and a whole bunch of people looking to do other things. And I don't think that'll be the case. I think overall, I think the experiences that people are having are good ones. I think the fisheries, in many cases, in certain places, are in good enough shape that people are being able to get out, have the full experience, catching memorable ones, all those types of things, being good stewards, maybe releasing what they don't need, and that just feeds itself, and everybody has a good time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you just mentioned yourself, the fishing, the act of fishing creates a lot of memories. And speaking of memories, let's learn a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to angle.
Oh man. So I went to Ohio University. I grew up in Central Ohio, but I actually lived in the Florida Keys in the summer times. And so, you can imagine a kid from Central Ohio, spending 6-7 weeks in the Florida Keys every summer. It was, somewhat mind-boggling. So after college, I stayed in Hilton Head Island. I started selling boats. I went to Yamaha. My good friends at Yamaha here are a great supporter of CCA for a long time. I was at Yamaha for 12 years, primarily running saltwater tournaments and pro staff and events, which was great. That took me Yamaha. Yamaha does such a great job of really trying to give back to their customer base and beyond, supporting lots of tournaments, supporting lots of organizations, all those types of things. So, that had me pretty much every other week at an event or a tournament somewhere from the Catalina Billfish Series to the Florida Keys to, striper fishing in Long Island or something. So that was really cool. And then in 2010, I moved to Florida, and I've worked for a few companies, Navionics, Marine Charting, Lumitech did LED lights, and I joined Paul here. I lived in Jupiter. Lumitech, or Engel, is kind of the only show here in town, and Paul and I crossed paths. Paul Kaplan, who's the owner of the company, and just one of those great fortune type things you reflect on, where he needed somebody to get in and help out and shake things up. And I was looking to have a 4 traffic light commute to work, and it's been great. We've been doing great things ever since. The company's very successful, and one of the things I was very upfront with Paul early on was that I was personally passionate about advocacy and getting involved and having some of those things that kind of made the experience for me more than just a kind of a selling each and every day. So, he was very eager right up front to say, listen, with success of this company will come some kind of corporate citizenry, a little bit, if you will, where you tell me the things that are important and that matter, and we'll do our best to support as many of them as we can. And he has definitely done that. So it's been pretty cool. He affords me an awful lot of time to do things like, go to CCA banquets all over the country and serve on the ASA board and serve on the South Atlantic Fisheries Commission advisory panel and all those different things that, ultimately aren't neatly tucked into evenings and weekends. So Jupiter's amazing and couldn't be happier. And it's just it's a great industry to be in. So I'm kind of blessed that I'm still here. So.
Excellent. And you just said yourself, you're no stranger to this industry, having been in it since the 90s and all that. And now with Engel, you kind of brought up advocacy, and, I'd be a fool to not to mention Engel's one of our national sponsors of CCA in general. Obviously advocacy is really important to you, and I'm sure it's probably really important to Engel Coolers as well as a company.
It really is. I think, we like to call ourselves, we're a small family-owned company, and we kind of pride ourselves on that. And I think that allows us to walk our walk, if you will, instead of just talking the talk. So, we're very just fortunate to be able to support CCA California. I believe we support, as a state sponsor, I think every CCA chapter, maybe but Texas. Actually, I think we support Texas. We just don't support CCA National, which is in Texas. But I think we got Louisiana a year or two ago, and they were kind of our holdouts. So from Maryland over to Washington, we support every CCA state chapter. I'm personally involved with ASA, and we're a corporate sponsor of ASA. RFA, you name it, lots of local groups over this way for sure, IGFA, corporate sponsor. But those things give us not only an opportunity to kind of feel good about what we're doing and why we're doing it, but it also, it's really those relationships and the different people you meet through those efforts that are incredibly important. I think you learn a lot about what our industry needs. You learn a lot about the types of products that in the future can best serve you. And I think ultimately what we found is that ultimately when when we do our part, like so many other companies do, and Yamaha is a great example. We share a rep group with Shimano and Costa Del Mar, two great companies that have a pretty strong track record, to say the least, about putting their money where their mouth is and doing their thing. You guys are home to one of the greatest out there, AFCO, Bill Shedd. I could listen to him drop knowledge on me endlessly. It's an honor to cross his path and have the opportunity to do that. So that's a lot of why we do it, is really you kind of build some industry solidarity and you find some like minds, and it really does feed right back into your core business as well. It's important to be a part of supporting the things that support your customers.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Let's check into some Facebook comments here. Todd from TB Metal Art says, "What's up? What's going on, Todd? I have your piece right behind my head. It goes really, really well." Excellent. A bunch of people checking in. Dale Aguas from Turn Bikes. Hello, Dale. How are you? Carrie, how are you? Thank you. She says, "Thank you for your contributions for giving back." Absolutely. So, Mike, let's talk a little bit more about Engel there. I know, Engel is the cooler on the East Coast and Florida especially and all that. West Coast, we're just starting to get them out there, but tell us a little bit about the company and your products there.
Yeah, so Engel started in the 90s as well, and primarily, again, started as a one-man show with Paul, bless his heart, and so we've it's a pretty quick sequence of how we kind of went from there to here. He started selling powered fridge freezers, and actually they're probably more popular out your way than they are on this coast, to be honest. Engel fridge freezers were really popular worldwide, but here in the States we have readily available ice, and that's not a given everywhere else. So, but he started with fridge freezers and developed a market, and then it was actually Bass Pro Shops, and I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say that, even though it had some twists and turns to the relationship. But it was actually Bass Pro Shops who came to Paul and said, "Listen, we need." He was making some fiberglass coolers at that time, and said, "We really need something that can hold up better through all the stages of making it to and from a store shelf. Fiberglass is gorgeous, but fiberglass is also, fiberglass. And, one drop, one nick, one bang, one this, one that. We're all chasing our tails." So that's where the rotomolded cooler came from, and we hold the design patent on that. Very proud of that. Long apparent story of Yeti kind of following behind on that, but we won't go down that road today. But rotomolded coolers then led to injection molded coolers and dry boxes, which are really kind of our bread and butter. We do an awful big business in that, and I think we do that because ultimately where rotomolds, at least historically, were kind of a specialized product. They're big, they're heavy, they can be expensive. So if you don't really need one, you don't really need one. And even if you thought you needed one, once you have it, you may find out you don't use it as much as you thought, simply because you just need to have a packed cooler for 4 hours. You don't need it for 5 days. So the dry boxes are really that quick grab, super lightweight. They're all under $100, they're accessible. They're a high utility product. And from there, over the last 6-7 years, we've added, all the basics, soft side coolers. We do a lot of those, TPUs, et cetera, and insulated tumblers. That was an amazing case study in product frenzy for a while. It lasted till a few people jumped in there and killed that one pretty quick. But that was an interesting phenomena to see blow up. I'm sure the guys I forget the company that had made them for like 50 years. They were on the sideline going, "Wait, what are you all going nuts about? We've had these forever." But that's how things go. once everybody has a couple, then it dies out again. So yeah, that's kind of what we do. We do soft sides. We do a couple different types of rigid coolers. We do insulated drinkware and fridge freezers, and we try and pride ourselves on having a little something for everybody's needs and everybody's budget. So.
Yeah, and going back to that dry box there, I know I've got a couple myself. We take them to all the shows that we go to, Fred Hall, Bakersfield, you name it, we're bringing it.
Mhm.
And those things are awesome. I love my black one and all that. And you said that they were injected, right? Or injected,
Yeah,
right?
so injection molding is just a different kind of manufacturing, but you know, it's a it's a way to create higher volume. Rotomolding, actually, believe it or not, which I'm amazed, you know, some of the story, and I'll mention Yeti prolifically. I think what they've done is outstanding, and they are also a company I tip my hat to. They also support an amazing array of things that benefit all of us that fish and boat and get outdoors. So kudos to them for doing what they've done and what they do. But I also am amazed at the volume that they then went and chased. Rotomolding is a cumbersome, tedious, slow process. If you've never seen a rotomold machine, it's, you know, big radial arms, and you just kind of tumble these things for about 45 minutes to make one cooler, and that's before you go to foam it. So to build a business on massive volume that way can be tough. Injection molding is not like that. Injection molding is as quick as I can hit my fist, a cooler is made, you know, and it's it can be a way to then get product in people's hands that can be affordable. Because again, it doesn't matter where you make a rotomolded cooler, it's a labor intensive process, and so it's expensive. And that's the challenge we all face in anything we do, is if you make fishing and camping and everything else something that costs some mint for someone to want to get into and do well and have a great time, well, you've kind of taken a crowbar to your shin before you even got started. So that's why we play with different things. We play with different designs. We always try and be mindful that while we like to consider ourselves kind of a premium brand, quality can't always come at some exorbitant, you know, super tip of the spear type customer profile. That's not the way to make it happen. So.
Yeah, and you know, you just mentioned it, where, you know, not only the fishing industry obviously uses coolers pretty frequently and often, but you just mentioned camping and all these other uses for a cooler. And especially with Engel, such a quality product, you buy one, it's going to last you quite a while.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's just it. And I remember people asking me that question when I started at Engel, which is, you know, how many coolers do you have in your garage, and where did they come from? Do you even know the lineage of half of them, or you know, were they just, did you pick them up? Maybe you took them one weekend in college and you never gave it back to your dad, and you just have it. So, and that's true. As coolers became better made and of higher quality, you know, you don't have a need to resell to that same customer infinite number of times, and that's not your goal. So you have to then, you know, come up with maybe new things that they need, give them a compelling reason to continue to be a customer, or go find those other customers. And I think that's what 2020 saw a little bit with rotomolded coolers. Is 2019 kind of saw that segment plateau. And I think that's because all of those, say, let's just say for argument's sake, the top 25% of customers that have to have it, truly need it. You know, I own a boat and I go on trips, you know, many times, and I pack my cooler on Thursdays for my Saturday trip. But like, I need a rotomolded cooler. It's absolutely intrinsically important to me. Well, sooner or later, every one of those folks has probably not one, they might have three, you know, depending on sizes or whatever. So the challenge that we all talked about, and I actually talked about with other cooler manufacturers. We all kind of, you know, trade chit chat, was all the people that for years have been walking by rotomolded coolers and kind of shaking their heads going, oh, that's the silliest. I'm still amazed, you know, dragging their husbands away. Good Lord. You know, suddenly they've had enough time to have a friend who has one, or be on a camping trip with someone who has one, who didn't have to go get more ice, you know, halfway through the trip, et cetera, et cetera. Suddenly what we call that next level of customer, we've allowed kind of the product advantage to kind of speak to them, to where they're like, you know, costs have come down a little bit, and, you know, I think you're right. It would make our lives easier enough where I can see it making sense. And we saw that kind of new surge of people who previously would have never purchased a cooler at that price point, saying, you know what, it'd be good to have one. So
Yeah, it's almost kind of like reinventing the market every year with new products and all that, but then tapping into an existing market as well. And then you also said, you know, you can't just have one. You need one in every size. I know guys that personally have probably 8 to 10 coolers. I am looking at you, Wayne. And we all know that guy.
bless you all.
Carrie has a question. What are some of the things that differentiate your coolers, and what are your favorite features of them?
Well, usually I would cast a bunch of jokes out that I usually do, saying it's, at the end of the day, it's an insulated plastic box. And so the breadth of diversity is probably not as wide as some of our marketing might make it seem. But I think the strength of Engel is, I would say, for the cooler you get with us. Now, we can talk about the advantages of, say, brand P that takes their sidewall closer to 3 inches. Well, that's gonna do a little bit better, but that's the difference between 3 good days and 5 good days, let's say. And again, everything goes out the window if you open and shut your lid all day long getting drinks out of it. At that point, you know, brand I is probably going to be just as good for you. So it's all a matter of each company is kind of taking their product in between kind of that sidewall dimension thickness, which kind of gives you that usable space, versus how heavy it is, and then versus how much it costs. And ultimately, certain companies are willing to quite honestly give you better value than others, and I think that's what we try and do. A lot of them are very much the same in that regard. Some of them take some interesting design choices that end up taking some insulation out of the lower part of the cooler, which is not where you want to take insulation out. So, you know, when I see people embossing names on the bottom, and there's detents everywhere that are cutting out insulation, or interesting kind of accoutrements that cut weird channels into the bottom. Again, it's all choice, but we like to think, you know, one, build a cooler that works. I mean, it's supposed to be something you buy and you keep and that serves you well. So within that, you can't get too funky. You know, a lot of cooler companies have tried to break those original. I give Igloo a lot of credit. Igloo's traditional 48, 72, and 94 quart cooler that everybody at some point in their life has had one, I'm sure. But those footprints, at least in the marine industry and the boating industry, those footprints became really important. And so, you know, boats have been built. Leaning posts have always answered to those kind of footprints of those historic Igloo 48, 72, 94 quart products. And so, you know, Yeti builds them that way. We build them that way. A number of companies have models that answer to that. And that's what started us. And then you have companies that try and just, you know, we're going to get different. Well, problem is you have some really you have different, but you have less useful. And so that's ultimately never the long-term answer. So, I mean, I think you get into talking about latches. Everybody has a different latch design. Everybody prefers a different latch design. We use an adjustable compression latch. We also have a rigid stainless latch that can replace it. Some people love them. Some people love T-latches. Some people can't stand T-latches. You know, self-draining floors. Some people love them. Some people can't stand them because your bottles are inherently tippy, you know, as you try and load your coolers. So a lot of it, there's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of good long conversations with customers about what works, what doesn't, what changes maybe should be considered in the future. And over time, we've tried to listen, and as we've come out with new models, we've tried to take some of that feedback and kind of make sure our products, you know, soft sides, for example, you know, is it easy to load? Everybody's issue with soft sides are, you know, you try and open the thing up and it kind of closes back up on you, and they want something where they can see what's in it and you can get stuff in and out of it without, you know, fighting through a really narrow zipper opening. So with that comes concessions and you know, opportunity costs of design A versus design B. It's kind of interesting. Again, my initial joke is always that I get out of bed every day to go sell plastic boxes, and that in and of itself can be a bit mind numbing, but as you've seen, it's actually incredibly interesting.
Yeah, and though you know, you brought up some really good points there too, with the different products and people liking certain things and not the others.
Mhm.
I think there's a way, you know, is there a possibility where you can, people or your customers can actually order and customize their own products through Engel?
It's coming. It's coming. What we've always wanted to do is give people just that, the opportunity to, and really there's two paths with that. One is aesthetics, and that's low hanging fruit, and everybody loves that because that's how our brains work. You know, we've got some different things kind of cooking. Obviously, we do some custom graphics for CCAs. You know, we put the twisted fish on coolers and different things. And a lot of people have come back and asked outside of CCA, hey, I really want a CCA cooler. I was at the banquet, I didn't win one. How do I get one? Well, you got to go to the CCA store. You got to figure out, you got to wait. We're building all of that. You know, down here in Jupiter, we're blessed. We've got some amazing marine artists here nearby. Carrie Chen's right down the road, Casey Scott. And so we're going to try and look at being able to partner with them and offer aesthetic options for everybody to get kind of the cooler you want. And then really the next step beyond that is really looking deeper at componentry changes and major color changes, strappings, those types of things, and try and give everybody a little flexibility. That makes, you know, it's difficult because that means we have to expand the amount of components and whatnot we keep on hand to make sure that we're able to do that efficiently and have the manpower to execute on that. So in the meantime, we're just trying to get some. We do have a cool new rotomolded cooler. It's been a long time design, and it's one of those things that, again, a lot of money goes into new products. So new tooling, new all that, but we think we have a kind of a cool new design that I think kind of answers a lot of the questions people have asked us. So
Excellent. Definitely looking forward to that. And then you had mentioned the CCA coolers. Though Engel's been super generous to CCA California and specifically that coming to a banquet near you, you could probably win one in one of that's there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, we're gonna spend this year. I mean, last year was tough. I think the biggest thing, and it really, I would say CCA is one of the most profound examples of it is, you know, CCA, what is so important is those banquets. It's the opportunity to have that window of time where all of those different various presences can come together and have the evening. We have education, the spirit of advocacy, but ultimately also all of us supporting kind of manufacturers, the opportunity to get product in really important people's hands, the types of people we want. Engel is not historically strong out west. And, the CCA banquets and the types of people that attend CCA banquets end up really being a pretty profound part of kind of developing that market endorsement that helps our brand grow there and helps us, kind of connect the dots and get different really strong independent retailers, et cetera, that say, hey, I had a couple customers walk through my door and ask if we had Engel, and that's happened many times, and it's been based upon things that have happened at CCA events. So that's important to us.
That's great to hear. That's awesome.
Mhm.
Dale has a question there. What's the recommended soft side model to transport approximately 50 pounds of fish filleted? By the way, thanks for giving back.
Probably our HD30, which is our bigger model TPU cooler. Those TPU coolers are our top of the line soft side, and they're really well built. They have almost an inch of insulation, a nice shoulder strap, because you pack an HD30 full, it's everything you want to carry and more. But it gives you that room to get all the fish you want in there, and then still have room for whether you're using chipped ice, whether you're using freezer packs, whatever else obviously the best way to pack a cooler is pack it with things that are already cold. If you use a cooler to make things cold, you're going to have to fight uphill. You're probably going to have to re-add ice, all those types of things. But if you've got fish that's already at the temperature you want it, then you get it in there and you add some cooler packs or freezer packs. You zip that baby up and you're going to be good for a couple days for sure.
Sweet. Carrie says, get your wife fishing and she will never complain about spending money on quality gear. And yes, coolers are part of our fishing gear. Warning, she may outfish you and will probably want her own gear.
That's very true. That's very true.
Yeah. And Wayne's chiming in here. Hello, Wayne. He says, CCA Cal lifetime members have a chance to win in Engel Cooler. And that is true. You become a life member right now of CCA Cal. We're approaching two. Yeah, perfect.
Got my life member shirt on.
Excellent.
It's a great way to pitch your support towards the resource and
yeah.
For sure.
And Mike, if you become a CCA member of California, or I'm sorry, a lifetime member of California, we're fastly approaching 200 lifetime members.
That's awesome.
Once we get to 200, we're actually giving away 5 quality products, and that includes the 123 quart cooler too.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to tell you and Wayne right now, we're also going to pitch in $100 gift card on top of that too.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Get people in there. Get people in the loop.
Oh, for sure. We really appreciate that for sure, my friend. Carrie also is asking, what applications would you recommend a soft-sided cooler versus a hard-sided cooler?
Well, it's really personal preference, to be honest. The soft side, the HD30 I mentioned. So to me, that size is kind of perfect, because now, again, every day taking a lunch to work, whatever, smaller is better. I totally get it. For most of what I use, I have every cooler known to man. Every cooler. I got everything at my disposal. And I use a 30 quart dry box cooler probably 4 times for every once I use anything else. And that's because, to me, I mean, that 30 quart dry box cooler, it's got a carry handle on it. It's got a shoulder strap on it. It's insulated enough to work for me for a day. I can put enough in it that I'm not reaching that kind of terminal point where it's like, my daughter's juice boxes are going to have to be the sacrificial lamb, or my wife's wine bottle, or something for me. So to me, it's a great size. 30 quarts is that size. We make a soft side in that size. To me, I just love I love the lighter weight, rigid cooler because we live here on the beach. A lot of you do too. That thing can become a mini table. It can become a bench seat. It can become all things to me. If it rolls over in my truck, I'm not worried about it because it's gasket sealed. Now, granted, our zippers are waterproof as well. Um, but it's easy and I love it. And I think at retail, it's $60. So to me, it just makes all the sense in the world. You know, a lot of people, you can put stickers on it, you can do all those kinds of things. It's the everyday, when you reach for something, I end up always having a 30 quart dry-by cooler in my hands. But soft sides are going to give you an HD30 TPU cooler is going to keep cold things cold longer than that 30 quart dry box will. So, you know, if you're going on a weekend trip or those types of things, you're going to be better served by that soft side cooler. But, you know, beyond, other than not being able to sit on it, functionally, there's not a lot of utility difference between the two. You know, soft side, again, once it's full, you pack it well and you take advantage of its space. It's every bit as rigid, really, for packing in the back of a car or anything else as a hard side cooler is. So beyond that, I just think it's kind of personal preference.
Excellent. That's awesome, man. Wayne's also chiming in. Love all the awesome tumblers. Always have one or two with me. And that's absolutely true. I can speak from experience. So Wayne and I will actually go on the road quite a bit. And between the two of us sitting in the car, if you look down our, whatever that thing is called, the center console there's
Mhm.
probably 5 or 6 different tumblers, just all with different liquids throughout the day. They really,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I love my tumblers. We have quite the collection here, and you know, again, my wife yells at me because I'm not a big lid guy, other than when we're on the boat. When you're on a boat, a good lid is worth its weight in gold. It is dynamite. In fact, look at all your friends that are ever on a boat with you on a rough ride across a bay who have some knockoff cup that does not seal well, and either they're getting showered in coffee because the air's wicking it, or the top pops off on a wave and it goes crazy. So having a screw on top that closes airtight is amazing. But beyond that, you usually find me with my tumbler driving around town. I just love to let it breathe. I love to drink my coffee that way, and I occasionally spill some on myself. But tumblers have been, the tumblers are a great example too, that they take a lot of abuse. They really do. And so it's one of those things, once you have some, you know, it's an insulated cup. So there's not you want to make sure it fits in a cup holder. You want to make sure it holds enough. I'll be honest, the 30 ounce version that we have, spend a day at somewhere where you don't have a whole lot of opportunity to put that thing down and have it full most of the day with icy drinks or whatnot. That thing can get heavy after a while. That holds a lot of liquid in it. So you can get the whole hey, I really need, I get those calls often. Thanks for the 30 ounce tumbler. Can you send me some 22s? Because that thing is just a hulk of a vessel. And you're like, yeah, it sure is.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have both the 22 and the 30, and they both work great.
Yeah.
And before we run out of time here, I do want to talk about the AC/DC coolers that Engel made.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they've been in really, really high demand as of late, especially with COVID going on. And I heard a rumor, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but the Engel AC/DC coolers are actually being used to store, in some cases, the COVID vaccine. Is that right?
They are. We got late last fall, we got cleaned out and really got the phone calls were out of control, because one of the big things with the vaccine distribution, and we've seen it forever, because we have one model in particular that's probably in about 2/3 of the ambulances in the country. It's a little 14 quart version. We're able to temp set it exactly the temps they need for either saline or vaccines or certain drugs they need to transport at temp. And we're able to do locking hasps too, that for certain things are required. But these vaccines, as I'm sure a lot of people heard, you know, especially initially, the temperatures that they needed to be mostly maintained at. You could have brief moments of posit between point A and point B, where you didn't have to keep them at -80 or whatever it was Fahrenheit. But that was a major fundamental challenge because, you know, that's tough. It's tough to get temperatures that low. And so what we've seen is we've gotten lots of pictures from different health departments and whatever of they've come up with full forklifts with graduated shelving that'll have a number of our units. We only go up to 80 quarts, so they aren't ginormous. These aren't like, you know, walk-in closet freezers that can be wheeled around a facility. You've got to make them go from point A to point B. But the fact that we can go from AC to DC power so easily, automatic switching, so you just plug it out, pick it up, take it, plug it in, keep going. It's been really neat. So we've been trying to keep up with that demand, and unfortunately, it's, you know, demand is strong, and, you know, the unfortunate part is that's because, you know, we've had an awful lot of people sick. But good stuff though. It was interesting to see kind of the ingenuity of how to find what works and make it work, you know, whatever it is. Our fridge freezer is primarily designed for overland travelers going in the outback, or, you know, Jeep trails out west or something. And so to see it in warehouses kind of toting vaccines from point A to point B is pretty neat.
Absolutely. It definitely is pretty neat. And to know that it's actually being used in that way, it must feel pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dan is in the house. What's going on, Dan? He's asking, is it okay to use dry ice in your soft side coolers?
It is. It is. So TPUs, which is what we use on our HD coolers, is a incredibly robust material. We always tell folks that raw dry ice in and of itself, point of contact, it's a pretty harsh material, especially as it phase changes. So in many cases, you know, we temper the yes you can with it's always smart to wrap your dry ice in newspaper or cardboard, some sort of minimal buffer of some kind just towards the materials, because again, the very surface of that phase changing dry ice at point of contact, it's a harsh thing to touch for anything, no matter what it is. So it's always good to just have, even just a piece of newspaper can be helpful in some cases. But you can. There are, you know, I always also tell people though that for whatever your application of dry ice may be, outside of maybe, you know, again, you're packing that cooler on a Tuesday and you're gonna be, I don't know, sticking it on the back of a train that's going to end up in the Yukon or something 10 days later. I don't know that you want to, obviously you can't put it on planes, but you shouldn't. But, you know, there are freezer packs now. There are phase change material freezer packs that are, in my opinion, as useful, if not more useful than dry ice, especially if you think about, if you're using dry ice, that means you are packing a cooler full of something that you want to keep cold for, I think 10 days is reasonable. If that stuff is pre-frozen, as it should be before you pack your cooler, I mean, you should, if you're using dry ice, I'm assuming whatever you're packing with it, you have pre-frozen, because if you haven't, you're making a big mistake already on the starting line. So pre-freeze everything, get a good cooler, pack it in there. Find a freezer pack with the lowest phase change temperature you can. We make a 0. There are other people that make them lower. Some of those, we choose 0 because lower than that, you have actually some home freezers that won't freeze them. Essentially, what you find is they're like, hey, this freezer pack never really gets hard, and you're like, well, you know, I know it says something on the readout of your kitchen refrigerator, but you're just not getting cold enough to do it. So find that freezer pack that's as low as you can get, like a 0-degree pack. Pack all your frozen stuff in there, use those freezer packs, make sure it's tight, close up that cooler and don't open it. You're good for a week and a half.
It's good to know. That's really useful.
Dry ice isn't going to get you much longer than that.
Good to know. Good to know. Carrie's asking, you mentioned the soft-sided coolers have waterproof zippers. How do they hold up around the seams? Do they leak out of the bottom? That's what the most common issues I've found with soft-sided coolers.
Yeah, so you do have to be mindful of the end. What I've realized over time is that there's a real love-hate relationship with waterproof zippers. Truly waterproof zippers are a pain in the butt. They're difficult to use. The tension to close them. You know, if I had a dime for every person who bought a competitive cooler with a waterproof zipper that said the first thing that went was my zipper pulls, they all ripped off because so you have to understand one thing about a waterproof zipper is that the zipper in and of itself is rarely ever truly waterproof. What it requires is that little pack of zipper lube that comes inside each and every one of them. And what that zipper lube does, it makes it easier to operate the zipper. Everybody thinks that's truly what it is. It's just a lube. It's just to make sure you can zip it easier. But actually, that stuff is constituted in a way that it actually serves as this kind of, I don't even know the terminology. It's like a nano sealant that kind of helps complete these super tiny microscopic. Water can't almost even make it out unless you literally just sat it through a variable of temperatures upside down. Eventually it can peek through. That lube kind of fills all those in and just creates truly a waterproof seal. And obviously where the rubber meets the road and where the engineers make their money is on making sure that the ends of those zipper closures have what it takes to seal. And sure, that is usually, if you have a waterproof zipper that is not serving you well, it's usually at the closure ends that you first notice that's the problem. So for me, it's always more about, is it gonna tip over? Because if it's gonna tip over, you know, especially if you're driving alone, the first thing you have is a shiver up your spine going, if I don't get to this in the next 29 seconds, I'm going to have, you know, stinky locker room, wet, swampy footwell back there for the next, you know, however many days. And nobody loves that. That's really, I think, where the waterproof zipper became a thing that everyone had to at least look at something really water resistant, because, you know, you only have to knock over a cooler and have it leak inside your vehicle one time before you just don't ever want to do that again. So.
We've all been there, man. We've all been there.
Life lessons, you know, it's shared experiences are very important for all of us.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, one more thing that I want to bring up, where, you know, as when we're on the website ordering our Engel coolers and all that, there's this little button that says 0% financing. So you can actually finance your cooler through Engel. Is that right?
You can. And I'll be honest, that's my super great staff who brought that program in and put it on to implement it. Yes, you can. It's just another way of giving folks the opportunity to try and make sure that the decision to have these products in their world is accessible. So.
Excellent. Well, speaking of which, how do we get our next Engel cooler? Where do we go? And yeah, how do we get one?
Well, obviously you can go to engelcoolers.com. And we've tried to, like everyone, invest a lot of money in making sure that our e-commerce marketplace is robust. It gives you good information. Nobody likes ordering a cooler and finding out a week later it actually isn't in stock, and it won't be for a long time. And so we've got all that plugged in and played. We have one partner we work with that helps us. And that's a whole other conversation. We can get into the world of e-commerce, but we have one partner we work with who in the world of online marketplaces, those types of things. So Engel is pretty much present on any of those you would go to, the Amazons, the Targets, the Home Depots, all those. So we have a limited presence in that kind of world. For a lot of people, we actually had a lot of people tell us, it's important that I buy things from Target because I'm a rewards customer or whatever. And then I'd like to think more than most, we don't work with a lot of two-step distributors, but Engel being the size company we are and kind of the perspective we have, we are always endeavoring to make sure that the partnership that we can offer strong independent retailers and bigger mass retailers, we're with like Big Five Sporting Goods and Bass Pro, Shields, all those. But we really like also being able to try and save, if you have a strong local tackle shop somewhere, we at least are available to have that conversation with them and hopefully get products into your local market. But well, there's a will, where there's a will, there's a way. You can find us for sure.
That's great news. And once again, Mike, I can't thank you guys enough for being a huge supporter of CCA National and also CCA California as well. We definitely have at all of our banquets, we've got plenty of Engel product all over the place and people want them. That's for damn sure.
Well, I appreciate it. We're happy to be there for sure. And hopefully on the other end of this, this little mess we've had, we can get out there and see you guys and spend some time talking to your customers and your members.
Excellent. Oh, and one last question from Todd from TB Metal Art. He wants to know a little bit more about backpack coolers.
So backpack coolers are an interesting one. So we continue to make a great backpack cooler. We don't make it in TPU because we make it in just a kind of a regular fabric, if you will, for a variety of reasons. But one, because we wanted to keep a backpack cooler at something. We originally really targeted $100 as a ceiling we wanted to have. And so it's a really popular seller for us because again, one, it's accessible. It's not necessarily at a price point that requires an awful lot of tactical saving to get to. But two, it's at a size. So it's about 22 quarts really in kind of usable size. And there's a reason there is one, you want it to be something that doesn't require only the largest human in your family to be able to carry. That kind of defeats the purpose of the backpack cooler. And even though it comes with a shoulder strap, it has a grab strap on the back, you want to be able to make sure that everybody can take advantage of the utility of those backpack straps, which, for us, again, here, living by the water, or if you have a big family park, we all know that, these two free hands are the only two you've got. And if you've got a dog on a leash or chairs or whatever it is, being able to take that cooler out of play and be able to put it on your back or on your shoulder and be able to still have your hands free to do something else can be a big part of your day. So we really enjoy them, and we've continued to work on making sure that they're robust. Because again, people will pack them as full as they can be packed. So and you pack it full, it's heavy. So you got to make sure those straps are robust and that they can handle it all. So
that's a great note to end on. Mike, thank you so much again for joining us this afternoon. We really appreciate that and all the support that you give from CCA California.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next week. Goodbye and take care.
Cheers.